Hi. So we've been practicing using ACE over the last few days, few weeks maybe. And I really feel like you guys have a good understanding of the A and the C portions of ACE. But the part that everyone seems to find a bit more challenging is the E, the elaborating on why your evidence is important. With today's standards in the world, it's no longer enough. It's not good enough to simply give an answer to a question, a yes or a no, or even just one sentence. You have to support your thinking with evidence. You have to elaborate. You have to explain your thinking. And you have to give reasons for why you think what you think in order for you to be an effective communicator. Essentially, that's what lawyers have to do. They have to prove their point, give evidence, and elaborate on why their thinking is correct. If a lawyer is making a claim that a suspect is guilty and shows a bag filled with stolen diamonds in it, and then the lawyer, is he done? No, the lawyer still has to elaborate and say how this evidence that he's holding up makes the suspect guilty. He has to answer the question, so what? Why is the evidence important? Why does that mean that the suspect has stolen these diamonds? How does that show that he's guilty? You can't assume that the reader or the audience can automatically make those connections, no matter how obvious those connections might be. So, one way to elaborate upon your evidence is to use the explain why strategy. This type of elaboration is exactly what it sounds like. You explain why your evidence is important and how it supports your claim. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to elaborate by explaining why your evidence supports your claim. So let's start with a little bit of practice here. You're a lawyer and you have to make your case. I want you guys to fill in the elaboration portion of this lawyer's argument. He says he makes the claim, or she makes the claim. The suspect is guilty and then shows evidence. This is a bag filled with stolen diamonds found in his car. I want you guys to fill out the elaboration. Tell your jury why it matters. Why does this bag of diamonds prove that your suspect is guilty? We'll come back to it at the end. So, like I said, we're going to learn how to connect all of our responses in our elaboration today using the explain why strategy. How are you going to do this? First, you're going to read the story or the article and you're going to understand, make sure you truly understand what it's all about. You're going to read the question and you're going to think about the topic. You're going to ask yourself, what is this question really asking me to do? After you've paused and you've thought about this question, that is when you can begin to write your answer using the flip it strategy. So turn the question, take words from the question and flip them into your answer. A great sentence starter for an answer is I think. Then you're going to cite evidence about that topic. You're going to use strategies like the lift the line strategy, and you're going to make sure that you conceal it in the bag. A great sentence starter is one reason. Now comes the point where you need to elaborate. You need to tell your audience why your evidence supports your answer. You can do this by asking yourself some very important questions like, why is this evidence important? Why would this matter to my reader? How does this prove that my evidence is related to my claim? If I were a lawyer, how could I convince my jury of my claim? Remember, your claim is your A portion of ACE. You can then go ahead and ace your response using one of the sentence starters below or your own sentence starter. You can use this is significant because this shows that, or as you can see. So let's give an example here. Let's go to our trusty three little pigs. And we have the question, how can you describe the third little pig? Remember, you need to pause and think what the question is really asking you. It's asking you how you can describe him. It doesn't say physically or it doesn't say mentally. So you can put that spin on it however you'd like. Do you want to describe what he looks like or do you want to describe how he is, how he behaves, a trait? Well, I think it's probably more important. And I think that my reader would probably be more interested in what he was like trait wise, what he was like mentally on the inside, because everybody knows what a little pig looks like. So I decide that it's asking me how his traits are. So I answer by flipping my question into my answer, and I write, the third little pig can be described as smart. I could also write, I think the third little pig can be described as smart. But I'm not done yet. Remember, it's no longer acceptable to just give that one sentence answer. I need to think about some evidence. So I asked myself, okay, I know that he's smart. So what does he do in the story that shows me that he's smart? So I use the sentence starter for my elaboration or for my citation of evidence from the lift the line strategy. And I write, in the third paragraph, it states that he built his house with bricks. Now, this is still not a complete answer. Notice I did not say why that shows that he's smart yet. That's your elaboration. Try not to put that into your evidence. Keep it simple. Keep the evidence simple. Remember, evidence is something that you can completely seal in a bag. Can I take out the third paragraph from the story, make a copy of it, put that copy in a bag, and show it to a lawyer? Absolutely, I can. Can I take my jury over, point to paragraph 3, and show them? Absolutely. So just keep it simple with the evidence. Now I have to elaborate my thinking. I ask myself, so what? So what? He built his house out of bricks. How does my evidence prove that that pig is smart? So I use my sentence starter. This is significant because he was thoughtful and wise about what materials he used to build his house. He knew that if he built his house with bricks, it would be sturdy and it couldn't be blown away. This is my elaboration. I have shown why, I have explained why my evidence proves that he is smart. Now, there are definitely other ways to elaborate. This is just the first elaboration strategy that we'll be learning. So I do want you guys to practice explaining why. Here's the full ACE response to the question about the third little pig. Now it's time for you guys to practice. You have the A and the C's written for you here. I'd like for you to please write the E for number 3 and number 4. If you take a look up at number 2, I've done it for you. No kids should not have limits on their screen time. According to the article, watching television and playing video games can be relaxing. Now I have to tie it all together. I have to explain why watching television and playing video games can be relaxing should mean that kids should not have limits on their screen time. So I write, students are under constant stress at school and need an outlet to relieve this stress for their mental health. So I tie it all together by saying that kids shouldn't have limits on their screen time because it's important for them to relax for their mental health. Now it's time for you to try it. Try this now with number 3. Your A says there are many negative health impacts from too much screen time. Your C is, according to the article, too much screen time can lead to weight gain. Now you need to tell me, why is it important? Why should I care that young kids are gaining weight? How does that mean that they should not have as much screen time? Go ahead and write your E now using the sentence starter. This is significant because. Great. Now that you've done that, let's practice it another time. Your A for number 4 says there are many negative health impacts from too much screen time. So you have the same A, but you have different evidence now. You have the evidence. According to the article, kids can have trouble sleeping. So now you have to tie together how having trouble sleeping means that they should have less screen time. Go ahead and ace your response with the elaboration and the sentence starter. This is significant because. All right, here we go again. We have an A. One way to utilize technology in a positive way is to have limited screen time. We have the C. In the last paragraph, the article suggests limiting screen time to 2 hours or less a day. Now, you need to tie this together. You need to tell your reader why having or the article suggesting to limit screen time, why does that mean that they are going to utilize technology in a more positive way? Why would limiting the amount of time lead to a more positive utilization of technology? Go ahead and pause the video and ace your response with the elaboration and the sentence starter. This is significant because. So perhaps this one is a trickier one. So perhaps you could elaborate this by simply saying that this limited screen time, you could say this is significant because This limited amount of screen time allows for kids to go outside, interact with friends, and get more physical exercise. There you go. That tells you right there how it's more positive to have limited screen time. Let's take a look at number 6. The ACE is one way to reduce the negative impact of technology is to limit screen time right before bed. And you see, as according to research, screen time close to bedtime can cause kids to toss and turn as their brains are not completely off. This is very similar to on the previous page where it said that screen time should be limited because it affects sleep. We're going to ace our response with the elaboration and the sentence starter. This shows that. Go ahead and write yours now. All right, so maybe you wrote something along the lines of, this shows that screen time right before bed is not a good idea because kids are less likely to feel tired, or kids are likely to feel tired and cranky the next day. Nobody wants a tired and cranky kid. All right, so finally, now that you have had some practice with the explain why strategy, I want you to go back to our original question here about our guilty suspect and the bag filled with diamonds found in his car. And I want you to explain why again, using one of the sentence starters. This is significant because, as you can see, or this shows. Let's see how far you've come.